Welcome to the Grace and Grit podcast, made for women who want their healthiest years to be ahead of them, not behind them. Join your host, Courtney Townley, right now as she breaks down the fairy tale health story you have been chasing all of your life into sensible action steps and lasting change. Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Grace and Grit podcast. This is your host, Courtney Townley, and as always, I'm so happy that you've decided to spend a little time with me today. And we are going to be talking about a topic that I have never discussed on the Grace and Grit podcast, which is facial health, how to care for the health of your face. And no, I'm not just talking about skincare. I'm talking about how do we care for the tissues and the muscles of the face, just like we care for the tissues and muscles in other parts of our body. There's a lot of options this day and age when it comes to skincare, especially when it comes to treatments for the face. And while we're hearing plenty about treatments like Botox and fillers and plastic surgery, I don't think we're hearing enough about the natural treatments available to help us honor the health of the face. So I've invited my friend and facialist extraordinaire, Andrea Fairborn, to the show to share with us some alternative and very powerful therapies for honoring the health of your face. And again, we're not just talking about skincare here. We are also going to discuss ways to condition the muscles of the face and how practices like reflexology and even nutrition can help support the health of the face. Andrea is a holistic nutritionist and facialist, and she is specifically a facial reflexologist who works closely with women to empower them to love their age, enhance their natural beauty and health through the healing arts. I learned so much in this conversation, and I think you will too. So, Andrea, welcome to the Grace and Grit podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's so lovely to spend time with you today.
Yeah, I am so excited you're here. And this is not a topic that I have ever explored on the Grace and Grit podcast. We've obviously kind of covered a wide range of topic on the show, but facial care, reflexology is not something I've ever touched upon. And it's interesting because I am blessed by a mother who takes skincare very seriously. And she encouraged me at a very young age to start getting facials, which I'm so glad because I really think it changed my skin in such dramatic ways. But it also got me really fascinated in all that's out there in terms of the things that we can do to promote a graceful aging process.
Exactly.
And stumbling on your work, and I want to talk about how we met because it's more than just stumbling, but being reintroduced to you and this new work that you're doing has just been so fascinating because you are talking about sort of, therapies and modalities that people can be doing at home that have a very natural and organic approach. So I'm so excited to explore that with you today.
Oh, me too. Me too. I think that your listeners are going to just find this so incredibly fascinating for sure.
Awesome. So let's start because it's been a hot minute since we last saw each other, but we met over 20 years ago.
Yeah. Want
to share with how we met?
Yeah. So I was a student at Stop Pilates, and I was in my certification courses to become a Pilates instructor, and Courtney was my master instructor trainer. So she taught me really everything that I know and love about the Pilates movement, Pilates therapy, mind-body movement. And that's how we met. Yeah. In Toronto, Ontario, Canada.
I love it. And you stayed rooted in that world for 20 years. You also went on to get nutrition education.
I did, yes. So in 2006, I had a setback with my own health, and I wanted to learn how to feed myself properly. So I was a former ballerina, former dancer, and dancers often do not take proper care of themselves and from a nutritional standpoint.
100%.
So I really wanted to learn outside of seeing a naturopath how I might be able to balance my overall health and wellness in my own kitchen. And so I went to nutrition school, got out of nutrition school, and then started to apply that knowledge into my Pilates practice. So my Pilates practice went from just, teaching Pilates movement to then incorporating a wide, like a holistic, broad scale approach, helping people understand like what you put into your body is only going to enhance how you move your body.
Yeah. And what a blessing to your clients, because when we approach movement, right, from more of a holistic perspective, like how are our lifestyle behaviors outside of just movement influencing the practice of movement? Exactly. It really takes it to a whole nother level. Okay. So then a couple years ago, right around COVID, right, when COVID came into our midst, yes, you had a pretty big experience with Bell's Palsy, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Tell us about that.
I had a really stressful period of time with a lot of profound grief. My father became ill and passed away quite suddenly. And my business, my Pilates studio was moving locations, and I was having to take care of my mother and deal with the estate and sell the house. And all of these things just started to pile up onto me in terms of like a spiritual, emotional, physical level. And I love to push myself and be there for others. And so obviously not doing a good care of taking care of myself. And I was in the Pilates studio working with a client, happened to glance up in the mirror and noticed that the entire right side of my face had literally fallen and shifted. And I thought I was in essence having a stroke. Like I, at that point, was only 47 years of age. So I was quite scared. I didn't know what to do. Started working with therapists right before March 13th, 2020, when we all were told to go home. And so they had to close their doors. They were unable to see me. Many people weren't able to jump on that virtual care right away. So one of my therapists said, well, you're a smart girl. You understand movement and nutrition. Why don't you just Google facial exercises? And I kid you not, that's exactly what I did. So I started looking at other people's work, starting to understand the muscles of the face, how the face functions, and fell madly in love with this work. I started to see the benefit and how it was able to rehab my own injury. And so one certification turned into another. And now I am a facial reflexologist, trained in all things TCM beauty, and now in clinic practice at a naturopathic clinic.
It's so awesome. And I'm going to post up the picture that you sent me, the before and after of your Bell's Palsy, because the shift is just remarkable. And it's also fascinating. I've never shared this with you, but about 7 years ago, my husband had major spinal surgery, and he went to New England so he could work because he's obviously in a very physical career as a carpenter, but he went back to just do kind of bids and estimates for another company. And while he was there, he was walking in the woods a lot to rehab his back. And same exact thing. He sends me a picture and it looks like my husband has had a stroke. He literally had zero, muscle tension on the one side of his face, and went to the emergency room. They could not figure out what was going on. Eventually, he came home, saw a neurologist, and long story short, my husband was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and it had attacked the trigeminal nerve of his face and demyelinated the nerve, which caused the Bell's Palsy. And I'm so intrigued by your work specifically because of your own story, but also to this day, when my husband takes pictures 7 years later, his smile isn't symmetrical. So he kind of has a droop on one side. Yes. And I hope he doesn't lose this because I really love it, but he has a little dimple in the middle of his chin now. So when he makes certain facial expressions, he gets this dimple, like this cave in the middle of his chin, which he didn't have before. Wow. So I definitely understand the stress and alarm of that experience, but what a beautiful story, because what you did with that is so cool. Like, not only did you recover yourself, yes, but you launched into an entirely new career.
Yes. And I mean, I think for me, like the pandemic gave me the space to
Yes.
do that. So, I mean, if this had happened, you know, outside, like if COVID had not come, I probably would have, gone to seek treatment from someone else, would not have understood the magic that comes with, self-care and learning how to touch your own face. I probably would still be in the Pilates studio doing my Pilates clients and nutrition clients. So this whole thing has just been such a remarkable blessing. This palsy has, in essence, literally changed my life for the better.
Absolutely. And also, it's launching into a new career, but it's also taking everything that you had learned along the way and embedding it into this new practice and new service. So I'm curious because, it's interesting that we do talk so much in the health and wellness space about the importance of muscle health, right? And we talk about all the ways to build spinal strength and leg strength and all the things, but no one's talking about the face.
Well, and that's exactly it. So, I mean, in all of the wellness courses and fitness courses, workshops that I had taken over the 20 years as a body movement professional, it stopped right here at the neck.
Yeah, like there's nothing about the neck.
Right? So there's nothing there, but there are 43 muscles of the face. And when you include the neck, that's 57 in total.
Wow.
And the face is not unlike the body. It needs to be released. It needs to be stretched. It needs to be toned. It needs to be palpated, all of those things. And we often have been told, do not touch your face. Do not touch your face. Do not touch your face. And when I tell my clients this, they're like, but I was told never to do that. And I'm like, yes, it's almost like you have to, erase that message and just trust the process and trust your hands, trust the gua sha, trust reflex tools, and just know that these tools know what to do as long as you understand the techniques and how to move them. They really are so intuitive. And what's amazing about the body is that everything is one and everything is connected. So the meridians, they run into the face. We have reflexes that actually correlate to our body structures. Every wrinkle, every line, every pocket and fold has a reason behind it. It's just understanding the why and then learning how to address it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
yes. I love that. And I love that you say that all of our lines and our wrinkles have a reason and they have a relationship to other spaces and places in the body.
They do. And they're not necessarily bad lines. Like I think a lot of us, especially in North America, are told that aging, you don't want to age and you should be perfect and you should have no lines. And I studied with some instructors that were from Europe, and they were like, ladies, we need to celebrate those lines. These lines have profound meaning and they're beautiful. And if you don't have them, you should be worried. So it means you're not living your best life. So I think what I love about this work is that it empowers us to love ourselves as we work through the aging journey, that some lines are meant to be there and we just need to learn how to love them and embrace them. And when we understand the meaning behind them, they're no longer scary. They're no longer things that we want to eradicate or erase.
We can embrace them. And I love what you said there because you emphasize some lines. So obviously, right, there are ways that our face develops that are indicating probably some depleting lifestyle habits or things in the body that may not be functioning so well. And then there's other lines and expressions of the face that are beautiful and that we want to celebrate. So how do we know the difference?
Well, it's like postural analysis, right? So when you see your client walking into your studio space, you know exactly by just watching them move and watching them walk into your space, what you're going to want to lengthen and what you're going to want to rebalance and strengthen. The same goes for the face. So we have analysis that we can look at and just trying to understand what is pushing through. So like, for instance, 11 lines, right? There's numerous ways to look at those. So the lines that, for our listeners, the lines that sit between the eyebrows, at the seat of the stamp. So 11 lines can be numerous different things. They could be from a Dian Chen perspective, facial reflexology. It could be, again, something going on with the cervical spine and the shoulders and the endocrine system. So maybe even thyroid imbalances. From a TCM perspective, Chinese medicine perspective, it could be, again, a blockage in the liver. So again, as a facialist, it's my job to ask the appropriate questions. What is happening? What are you feeling? How is your lifestyle? Do you have some discomfort and pain here, so that my tools can then address not only the face, but sometimes the localized area of the body to bring everything back. All is one, one is all. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And I read in one of your posts that you referred to it as face reading, right? Mm-hmm. Reading the face. And I loved that because I've never heard that phrase before. But it's so true that we, as movement specialists, we look at the human body and we put people through movement analysis to see where maybe the discrepancies are, or where we can lengthen muscle and strengthen other muscle. I assume that's what you mean by face reading, is starting to understand.
Yeah, for sure. Like
showing up.
Exactly. So, I mean, when we look at ourselves in the mirror, really trust your reflection, trust that it is talking back to you, and make note of what you're not happy with. And then talk to the facialist, talk to the reflexologist about how you can address that. Yes, you can go in and see someone, but you can also do a lot of this work at home. Mm-hmm. In the comfort of your home, in your pajamas, before bed or before you jump into the shower to get ready to go to work. A lot of this can be adapted so that you have the power. The power really, I tell my clients all the time, the power lies within your own two hands. It's just trying to find that knowledge.
And you're such a testament to that, because look at what you did. Like COVID shut everything down. You were in an extreme situation where you really needed the treatment. And you just took that upon yourself. Now, granted, you took it to a level that most people probably don't have the time and energy for. But my point being that you literally recovered. How long did it take?
Start to finish, I would say about 12 months before I started to feel that I had full function. And it was a combination of different modalities. It was a combination of facial yoga techniques, facial rejuvenation, Japanese facial sculpting, gua sha, cupping, and to be honest, my first love is Dian Chen facial reflexology, trying to really understand what the nervous system was telling me, right? I still have, like your husband, definitely some side effects still. Sure. So I still have a droop a little bit on one side of the face, but I'm no longer afraid to show my face. I was very, at first, just petrified to show my face. So ashamed of having this massive asymmetry that had happened and occurred on my face. But it builds my confidence. It builds everyone's confidence. And, I started this work at, 47. And I didn't think it was going to become, for me, about beauty. I was always working at this for form and function. Yeah. And when I see people coming to see me, like when people come to see me and they are looking also for that idea of like, how can I use this work to instill my natural beauty? Definitely. This can be a beauty treatment, a beauty regime that you can put into your program. I think it gives women also a lot of options so they don't feel like they have to revert or go towards cosmetic intervention. Mm-hmm. It gives you the option. Yeah.
I love it. What do you think were some of the, and I know there's a lot. I mean, obviously you spent 2 years studying this, but what do you think were some of the moments that just wowed you with what you were learning? Like, what are some of the things that just blew your mind?
I think what blew my mind was that all is one. For instance, I have a very prominent nasolabial line, life purpose line, more so on my right side than on my left side. And when you look at this line, this is the large intestine, again, looking your immune system, again, begins in the gut. I have autoimmune issues, and this line on the right side of my face is a lot more prominent than onto the left-hand side. I also have a knee injury on my right-hand side. This is the line where the knee would map up. So when you learned that everything is connected, all that you are, your bones, your ligaments, your muscles, your joints, it all maps through the face. And when you address the body, you'll start to see how the face softens, these lines soften. I think the biggest wow, though, for me was that this work, we have the power. We have the power to shift the face, to address the face, to restore the face. We don't have to go and see other people for treatment. We can learn some simple tips and put this into our daily practice. And it's remarkable how quickly the face can change versus the body. So as someone that has worked with body posture for as long as I have, I find that the face, it's so much quicker to change. It adapts so beautifully to this work. Yeah.
A few things in what I hear you saying. Like, first of all, like one of the big words that like I just keep marinating in that over the past year is integration, right? That health is really a practice of integration. It's integrating different practices. It's integrating, mind, body, and soul. It's just so much integration. And I hear that in what you're saying, right? That by addressing the wholeness of what's happening with us as humans, it starts to change the face.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the other thing I heard you say that I would love to hear you speak a little bit more to, because I'm so fascinated by it, is just the nervous system. The nervous system comes up in so many conversations I have with other professionals in the teachings that I do. And I think it's something that the Grace and Grit audience is very accustomed to hearing about. But when you say that's kind of the thing that excited you about this work in one of the most powerful ways, will you just talk more about that, like how the nervous system is reflected in the face?
Yeah, for sure. So Dean Chen facial reflexology it's this beautiful modality. It's called cybernetic therapy. So we have a wide variety of different tools, and the tools are gently rolling on the surface of the skin so that these tools can then work cybernetically through the face, the hair, all the way down to, again, integrate with the body system. So our nervous system, we really want to try to, again, restore those little blockages, right? Where there might be a disconnect. There might be something might be blocked, whether, again, it's muscle pressing on the nervous system itself, or, again, some sort of disconnect. These tools are just basically working to restore that cybernetic connection. So a lot of what I love about this work is that, the facial itself, the treatment itself, it's super gentle because we're trying to, again, realistically, slowly communicate to all of the systems, nervous system, again, running. So it's vast, it's broad, it's expansive. So working from one area of the face, which again will innervate all the way down into the pinky. So yeah, it's pretty neat. It's really neat. These modalities have been around for years. So Dian Chen started at the end of the Vietnam War. Gua Sha has been around 4,000 years. So this is, stuff that has been tried, tested, and true. I think it's just, again, learning how to use the tools and putting them into your daily practice.
Yeah. And I want to highlight here, because I think this is a great place to insert it, that, you do a great job on your Instagram account. I haven't followed you. I don't know about Facebook, but I know Instagram, like you're very prominent there. And you show a lot of these tools and you show a lot of these practices. And so if you're a listener who's intrigued by this conversation, but also your brain is going crazy because you're not exactly sure what these things look like, I would strongly recommend that you check out Andrea's Instagram page. And remind me the name of the page.
At Face Glow Chi.
At Face Glow Chi. And I'll put that in the notes of the podcast so people can access it fairly easily. And I love also, the fact that the tool bag for these practices is so wide and varied. Like there are actual physical tools.
there are physical tools, but there's also just the general use of your hands.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, this is where I started, was with facial rejuvenation and facial yoga, just putting some pressure into your face with your hands. So the bones of the face needs density, just like the bones of the body. And we use our hands on our face to create that bone density that often can decrease as we get older. The head's a free floating bobble. So we want to, again, ensure that the bones of the face stay strong. The hands work as almost like a free weight. So just like you would pick up a dumbbell and strengthen your bicep, our hands, in essence, are the dumbbell for the face. So rebalancing those 57 muscles, working to release tension, sometimes more so on the outer line, and then working to restore what we call the pillars of the face. So the youth zone, the mouth, the nose, and the eyes. The Dian Chan and the Gua Sha basically work to enhance the facial yoga. So the Dian Chan is that energetic rebalancing, and the Gua Sha is amazing for bringing microcirculation to the health of the skin. Again, it's a tool that it will enhance where the muscles and the fascia and the skin need to go. When we understand that the muscles of the face come from the bone itself and directly attach into the skin, when we exercise our face, our skin has really nowhere to go but up. So
it's interesting, isn't it? When we teach movement, as a movement teacher, it becomes very clear very quickly that the student having some education in anatomy and how the parts are connected helps them to become better movers. And I hear that really clearly in what you're explaining with these techniques, is that as we understand how the face is structured, and how the nervous system innervates and how the muscles connect, I can see how that would enhance all these practices. It would just make it more exciting, and it would also probably make you a far better practitioner.
For sure. But I think what I love most about this, though, is that it all works to make you feel a lot healthier in your body. So the lymphatic system, yes. Right? We hear a lot about that as wellness professionals, but, as we get older, our lymphatic system around this area between the collarbone up towards the cheekbones, it just likes to pool there. It doesn't like to come back down. So these tools, in essence, help to drain that stagnation, that puff that often sits on our features, around the eyes, around the nose. So when people ask me, well, my nose seems to be getting bigger as I age, I often remind them, you just need to detoxify the stagnant lymph around that area, and your nose will start to appear smaller. So again, using tools or just using our hands to touch and massage and work that lymphatic system away from our features. And it's just, you'll feel better as well. It just helps you to feel healthier, stronger, because the lymphatic system being such a huge component of our immune system. It's just, again, the more we work the lymph, the stronger our immune system will be as well. So it's again, that whole concept is one is all and all is one.
Yeah. And one of the tools I definitely want to highlight too is, of course, nutrition. Right? Yes. That what happens in the face, of course, what happens in any muscle or any tissue in the human body is going to be influenced by what we eat, and probably not just what we eat, but everything we consume in terms of lifestyle, right? The environments we put ourselves in, the amount of stress we absorb, all the things. So I'm especially interested to hear from you, like some of the key components that you maybe educate your clients on when it comes to nutrition. Like, what are some of the things, especially with facial health, that we should be aware of?
Well, I think first and foremost is, the importance of water.
Yeah. Hydration.
I still am shocked when people are, showing me their food journal, and I'm like, okay, so where is the hydration here? Like, are you drinking any water? Our bodies are 70% water. So, and I always remind people, water is the most inexpensive, pro-aging, like just get your hands on water. And I try to remind people that cold water is not ideal, especially if you're doing gua sha and facial yoga. You want more of that warm water with a little bit of lemon, a little bit of sea salt, because you don't want to shock the spleen. So when we're working with the lymphatic system, our spleen has to basically work to detoxify all of that. So we want to not shock the system. The spleen in Chinese medicine is part of the triple burner, part of digestion. Its main job also is to boost qi energy up towards the lung and the heart. So we want to keep the spleen really, really warm. But I just remind people, healthy fats. Healthy fats. Like, are you eating enough healthy fats for the skin? Wanting to make sure that the lipid structures are there. And then collagen. So collagen-rich foods. As we age, collagen just naturally diminishes and depletes. And these tools also help to boost your collagen and elastin production naturally. So you want to bring collagen into your diet so that will only enhance your self-care treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Collagen, you can find bone broth, chicken, egg whites. Like as long as you're just trying to eat a wide variety of foods, your body will definitely get what it needs. Vitamin C rich foods for the skin, for the health of the skin. I always try to remind people anti-inflammatory as much as you can. So an anti-inflammatory approach. And again, just thinking of working with foods that are going to promote the detoxification process. Right? We are exposed to so many toxins in our environment, whether it's, walking on the street in Toronto, in the city, or again, in our daily environment, what we're putting into the air with like fragrances or perfumes, that all has to go through the body at some point, what you're putting onto your skin. So working to support the endocrine system as much as we can. I also just think, just looking at treating yourself too with like dark chocolate. So,
I'm so glad to hear that, Andrea.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Cacao, antioxidant rich. So again, don't be afraid to make an avocado and cacao, smoothie or pudding for yourself. Everything in moderation. Everything has a purpose. Every diet though is so individual. So I always remind clients, just take a look, and if something doesn't resonate with you, then write it down. We can again address it, look to how we can revamp it for your individual needs. But I think just wide variety. Eat the color of the rainbows, vitamin A as well, like as much as you can. Eat orange, eat yellow, eat green, right? Just, wide variety of foods.
Yeah. I always remind clients, your poor little liver has so much work to do in the day, with all the things we're exposing ourselves to. And, and then of course, a large majority of my population is midlife, right? Perimenopause and menopause. So, the healthy fats just to help us with that hormonal production,
Yes.
as well as all these benefits to the skin and muscle tissue and ligaments and all the things. I think these are all beautiful reminders. And yes, water, I could not agree more. Like it's so simple, it's so available, and we forget it so easily.
We forget, or we leave it too late, right? So for those people that are like, well, I don't want to have to use the restroom because I'm working, I'm a teacher, or I'm not able, I don't have that freedom to, go to use the restroom all the time. I think people just leave it too late, and then they try to power hydrate, which again can be not a great thing. So I always remind people like a little bit throughout the day. I think the big thing about any of it is, again, small doses frequently. That's what I always tell my clients, small doses frequently. So as opposed to sitting down and doing a facial workout for a full hour, take 5 minutes here, take 5 minutes there, take 10 minutes here, small doses frequently. The body, I find, responds quicker in that way, nutritionally as well as with the face.
Well, and behaviorally, right? People are so distracted and have so much on their plate that just remembering that small steps consistently makes a big deal in every in everything that we're trying to adopt in our life. So
Exactly.
I love the reminder here as well. And I know people are listening to this thinking, okay, this is awesome. This is great. This sounds so lovely. How do I actually start learning these practices? So let's talk about that. Like, what are options for people to find out more?
For sure. So what I often tell people is, look at your face and really let it speak to you. So dark circles, lines on certain areas of the face, write it down. Look at your face and try to address, is it more musculoskeletal imbalances or is it an energetic? Mm-hmm. So if you think it's like, again, something dark circles, for instance, clients calling and asking about dark circles, I always remind them, well, how is your kidney health? Are you eating to support your kidneys? Mm-hmm. So you want to, again, look at that. If it's, again, more of a muscle asymmetry on the face, then you might be best suited to do more facial exercises like facial yoga. Or again, if it's a lot of lines that are popping up, little lines along the top of the lip, maybe it's a pancreas imbalance, right? Nasolabial lines are really, really deep. It could be, again, a cheek weakness, or again, it could be something going on with the large intestine. So again, wanting to pick the modality that realistically works best for you and speaks to you. It can be daunting, right? Which one should I pick? Gua sha, cupping, there's so many to choose. So I tell people, start with small baby steps. So start with just by touching your face. So maybe doing a little bit of just facial exercise or facial yoga and see how that goes. And if that doesn't speak to you or you're not seeing enough shift on the face, then maybe adding in a tool like a gua sha, or then maybe looking into Dian Chen. So you can start whichever way you want to go, but I often tell people, just examine your face. Let your reflection speak to you. And if you think it's more in line with the organs, then I would suggest maybe start a little bit more with reflexology, working to balance out that whole all is one. And then if you think, again, if it's more looking like, well, my bone structures are shifting, my muscles are, again, not looking in balance, I'm having a lot of like one eye a lot higher than the other, then maybe facial yoga might be the best bet, because then you can release some of those connective tissues, rebalancing the muscles, because the muscles of the face are so strongly interconnected. Oh, one works on top of another. So maybe that might be the best approach. Yeah.
So what I hear is really, like with any practice, having a guide at the beginning could be massively beneficial, because when you have someone who has more knowledge base on this thing and who has traveled a little further down the road and utilized these tools, it becomes less of a guessing game, right? Yes. Like everything's an experiment. It always is, whether you're working with a professional or anybody else. Like it just is. It's going to be an experiment. But you're probably going to spend less time experimenting if you work with someone who specializes in this. And so that's where you come in, and you do like remote work with people, right? You work with people anywhere.
Yeah, we do. Like I can do Zoom sessions. I love meeting new faces on Zoom. It's always fun. And so typically what would happen is a face reading. So a client would then tell me what they had written down about the face that they didn't love. And then I would, look into the viewfinder to kind of get an idea as to what is mapping up, and then discussing what their options are. So, these are all the modalities that I know, and taking into account their whole picture. So also their diet, their lifestyle, how much time they may have, their age, because again, we want to make sure that the modalities that we're working with will support the health of the skin. And then we kind of take it from there. I think people get a little bit worried about the time, right? How much time? I'm already going to the yoga studio. I've got my Pilates. I've got my personal training. I don't have time. So I try to create programs that they can do in the shower while they're washing their hair, that they can do while they're watching the evening news, So again, using your hands on your face while, again, you're just going about your evening, putting your time to good use, for sure. So it doesn't have to be daunting. It can be very user-friendly.
Well, and I think this is where it's also always helpful to work with a specialist, because that's how our brains work. Like we know all the modalities, right? And all the treatments and all the things you could be doing, but we can really help you to pinpoint like what would probably be the best next step that you might want to explore. And so, because you're right, like you said this earlier, that it's really easy with practices like this to spin out and overwhelm because there's so many options. And just so to have somebody who can, you know, just walk alongside of you and help to guide you in regard to how much time and which tool might be most useful. Is it the facial tools? Is it the yoga? Do we need to address something nutritionally here? And really make that into a bite-size thing.
For sure.
Yeah.
But what I really love about this is that in essence, you become your own facialist and you become your own healer.
That's the goal. Absolutely.
So I think we are so used to seeking other people's guidance, you know, looking towards the medical model to fix us. And yet the power really does lie within ourselves. Our bodies are an amazing vehicle for change, for healing. So with these sessions, I often see people just for 4 or 5 to get them on their way, creating a program with them. And then I'm like, okay, you know, let me know how you do. Go, go, go.
You set them free.
Enjoy.
You're that kind of teacher.
Yeah, like go and enjoy and have fun with it and don't feel nervous, you know, just enjoy and trust yourself, trust these tools and trust your hands and know that your body knows how to heal itself. Yeah, especially with DN Chan. It works so fast, Courtney. Yeah. Like I was so incredibly amazed with how quickly reflexology worked for me anyway. Yeah. And, you know, my clients that are coming in for treatment, they're texting me right after the next, you know, couple hours after being like, I have not felt this good in so long. And I think we often forget like how good we can feel. We're so used to feeling, you know, overworked, stressed out, that we forget what our body is whispering to us, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think especially with the aging process, it's so easy to chalk so many things up to the aging process, right? Like, well, yes, of course I have wrinkles. I'm aging, as you should, right? Like you said earlier, wrinkles are a beautiful thing. And, you know, it's also worth looking at, is it all necessary, right? Like, am I creating more stress somewhere that's actually making this a bigger problem for me? And like you said, it's not about beauty, right? Like that's kind of a byproduct. It's kind of like a perk, but it's really about feeling better in your body because your face is just connected to the rest of your body as your feet are.
Yes. Oh, for sure. For sure. And I think when, you know, you understand that your body, all that you are, organs, bones, ligaments, is speaking through your face. You know, by addressing the face, you are actually in essence supporting the rest of your body. Yeah. So, I mean, it's phenomenal work. And I was so surprised. Like I had never really, I was like, Guasha, what exactly is this? And yet it's been around 4,000 years. It's amazing that so many women, we don't know about it. We don't know about the power of it. We are just, like you said, we just kind of chalk it up to the aging process, but you can age gracefully. You can age beautifully. You can be authentically you. You can, again, embrace the glory of aging gracefully, just with few simple steps. Yeah.
So good. I'm so glad you came on. This was very enlightening. I'm personally excited to find out more. And I would love for you to just let listeners know, like, how can they find out more? Like, what are the spaces and places where they can connect with you?
Well, they can come to my website, apurewellness.ca. They can reach out on Instagram. They can send me an email. They can, again, dial in for a Zoom session, or if they're in Toronto, they can come into the clinic for a personalized treatment. I do discovery calls all the time. So if you're not 100% sure if this is right for you, just reach out. We can chat. Yeah. I think also I have other therapists that I collaborate with. So if you're thinking that, I might not be the right fit for you, I'd be happy to find someone in this space that you might be able to work with if I'm not the therapist or practitioner for you. There's many, many different ways that you can find this work. There are tons and tons of amazing programs, facial yoga programs online. If you want a downloadable service, reach out and I can help you find one that might work best for you. Yeah. It's incredible.
Awesome. We'll put all of your main info again, where this podcast is housed, on my website. So if people want more information, and of course I will, tag you in social media posts and all the things, so people will be able to easily find you. But you're amazing. I love your journey. I love the service that you're providing women. I think it's really spectacular. And yeah, thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. And, I think you're amazing. I loved learning from you back in the day when we were in the Pilates studio together.
So long ago, yes.
So long ago. I think you, again, empower women in such a beautiful and profound way. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Grace and Grit podcast. It is time to mend the fabric of the female health story. And it starts with you taking radical responsibility for your own self-care. You are worth the effort. And with a little grace and grit, anything is possible.